On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Extra Time with Mike Graham on Talk Sport.
Good morning, I'm Mike Graham and he's Mike Parry. You're listening to the two Mikes on Extra Time. We're keeping you entertained through the night. Just 3 hours, really, since the transfer window slammed shut. And what a dramatic final day it was, with Radamel Falcao going to Manchester United on loan for a year. He's going to be paid somewhere in the region of $300,000 a year. They won't say exactly how much it is, but it's an awful lot of money. And, of course, they have the option to buy him at the end of the season. Has Louis van Gaal saved Manchester United's season? 08717 22 33 4. The other big headline, of course, Danny Welbeck has gone to Arsenal for something in excess of 10 million. We think closer to 15, maybe 16 million pounds. Arsenal fans seem to be unsure about whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but do give us a call and let us know. Mike Porky Parry's here, of course, to deliver his verdict on the transfer window and exactly who did well and who did badly. You're listening to Extra Time with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Sport. This is Talk Sports Extra Time. We've had some fascinating calls in the first hour, but this is going to be even more fascinating because Mike Porky Parry is here. And a very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
A very good morning to you, Mike. It's great to be here. I feel I have a mission tonight to try and guide you through the jungle of the transfer window closing, because I could tell in your voice in the first hour there were certain mysterious bits of this equation which were eluding you.
I mean, there is so much information coming at you, basically, over the course of 24 hours.
I know you have problems handling information from different directions.
Like you, have been trained to absorb information and retain it, you know. But for me, there are certain parts of the equations that I don't quite understand. For example, I don't understand Radamel Falcao, a guy who leaves Atletico Madrid to go and play for Monaco when he could have played in the Champions League. That was for money, right?
5 seasons since he last played in the Champions League.
He then
5. You got that? The big 5.
I'm looking at your hand. Yeah,
exactly.
It's a small 5 actually. I'm
five.
looking at it, and then Falcao and I'm thinking, oh well, don't worry, because almost certainly he's going to be playing in the Champions League next season, as indeed Monaco are. And then he ups and leaves there and joins another club that are not in the Champions League. Do you think he's got some kind of Champions League phobia?
No, but he's a God-fearing boy, and it may be that he feels he is guided by God, and I'm not taking the mickey there. I'm guided by God in many ways.
Are you?
By my Christian beliefs and the way you think you should run your life.
Did you go to church yesterday?
I didn't go yesterday,
really?
But that's not to say I didn't go. I've been busy.
Right. You should. The Sundays for the day of rest, it's the Sabbath. You should always go and worship your Lord.
I don't believe in straightforward Christianity like that. I believe that you're a Christian 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you know, I believe sincerely that when you are in your car and you stop at a zebra crossing to allow an old person to cross,
a zebra crossing, or even a pelican crossing.
Yes, that is being Christian. That is what Christianity is all about.
Is it?
Christianity is allowing a car into a flow of traffic.
They didn't have zebra crossings at the dawn of time, did they?
Christianity is what I do sometimes. If I'm driving down a road, even if the road is semi-deserted, even if it's semi-deserted.
Semi-deserted? How do you mean by that, semi-deserted?
Well, not too busy, but not, not completely deserted, just semi-deserted. See what I mean? Right?
Semi-deserted.
And if I...
A bit quiet, you mean?
If I see... a quiet road. Yeah. That's perhaps a better word.
Yeah, perhaps better.
Yeah, perhaps our command of the English language is better pooled.
Yes,
if you see
it
what I
is.
mean. Yeah.
True.
Anyway, if I see a woman on the side of the road with 3 children waiting to cross, even though there's no traffic around, I stop. And I stop.
What?
I stop, and I flash.
That's dangerous.
It's not. It's the opposite of being dangerous, because what I do is I stop to form a protective physical barrier so that the woman cannot possibly come to any harm whatsoever.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I was coming behind you
road,
in my giant car and I saw that you'd come to a complete stop in a place that I wasn't expecting it, I would probably just completely blow your car to smithereens because I wouldn't stop. Because there wouldn't be time.
Well, I would slow down the normal way by putting my brake lights on and making sure...
Put your hazards on?
Well, I might put the hazards on if I was stopping more quickly than normal.
You should put the hazards on if you stopped in a place
where people aren't
expecting
expecting you. Of course, what you do is, from the sound of it, is being a road hog or a road pig or whatever, you'd probably think, I'm not stopping behind this guy.
Well, no, I just wouldn't expect you to be there.
And you shoot off down the side of my car and suddenly you massacre and wipe out a woman and her children.
Well,
that's the sort of attitude you have to like.
I wouldn't expect you to be stopped in a place where you shouldn't be stopped.
Well, it's irrelevant. All I'm trying to do is explain to you the way that Christian people think. Anyway, that's irrelevant. What I'm saying is, Falcao as you quite rightly say, arrives in Manchester United because we know that just a few minutes ago that was confirmed. Now, what I'm saying, Mike, is this. Even when I started thinking about this mid-afternoon today, I thought, what is left of the old United team? De Gea, Jones, De Gea, Jones and Rooney. Right?
What about Smalling?
No, I'm not counting Smalling. Okay. I'm not counting him as a first-choice player, right? All right? The team will then be made up of new acquisitions. Luke Shaw, Herrera, Royo, Di Maria, Daley Blind and now Falcao, okay? Yeah. I don't regard Van Persie as part of the old United setup because he's only been there 2 seasons and for one of them he was injured for most of the season, right? So what I'm saying is, made up almost entirely, 2/3 of it, of new acquisitions. Now the point is, if you understand the philosophy of man like I do, you will know that if you bring 6 disparate players, the ones I've just named, from all different corners of the world, put them together in a team, tell them to knit together and to unite and to become a great team, it is going to take at least 3 years for that to work.
Well, let's not forget there's a new manager as well.
At least 3 years.
There's a new manager as well. And
but the new manager's in charge of the new players.
Yeah, no, but what I said was when he was appointed just before the World Cup, this is a guy who, despite all of the great things that he's done, and I'm taking a lot of flack for this from people on Twitter, despite all of the great things that he's done, he's only won 4 titles in the last 15 years, four trophies in the last 15 years, and he's never managed in the Premier League. He's never had anything to do with Manchester United. And, we hear there from a Man United fan saying Manchester United have lost their soul, and maybe he's right.
Yeah. In 2012...
You didn't listen to any of that, did you?
I did listen to it.
I can tell by the way you answer it when you just go, I'll just move on now to what I was thinking about saying anyway.
No, I did listen and I endorse your point, but I don't want to endorse it too much in case people think I'm copycatting some of your thoughts.
Of course
you see what I mean?
Nobody would ever think that.
In 2012, just after United lost the league title to Manchester City, I remember Sir Alex Ferguson saying a new generation of young players are coming through at Old Trafford, and that will be the next class of 92. Yeah. That, of course, will never happen now.
No. Well, they're now getting rid of him. This guy Keane's off, isn't he?
Exactly. That's all been blown away. So where are United left?
Also, the young kids were put out to some extent against MK Dons, and they were useless.
Exactly. Utterly useless. You're quite right there. It's a very good point. I'm glad you made it. I heard what you said, and I'm endorsing it and saying good, okay?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Now, David, our esteemed producer back there, told me just before I came into the studio that 9 of the current United squad who may be in the starting lineup are left-footed.
Really?
Now, how does that work?
Well,
how does that work? I mean, United will be playing left to right and going round in circles.
Well, I mean, it makes no difference if they're left-footed or right-footed, does it?
Can I tell you the
way...
Well,
I mean, if there was 9 right-footed players, you wouldn't remark on it. What's the difference?
Well, because the left side of a field is a specialised part of the field where you can actually specialise in attacking further.
Rubbish.
Like Everton do.
Yeah, they did well on Saturday, didn't they?
Like Everton do when we've got Leighton Baines there playing with Pienaar.
What was the score?
I tell you what, there won't be many teams score 3 goals against Chelsea this season. There won't be many teams score 3 goals against Chelsea.
It doesn't really matter if you score 3 goals if the other team scores 6.
Won't be many teams score 3 against Chelsea. Let's not diverge and get off the point.
I know you don't want to talk about it.
Because what I'm trying to say to you is, we're looking at the early reactions in Fleet Street, okay, the fourth estate.
Yes.
Commenting and analysing what's happened. What about this from one of our favourite journalists, Martin Samley in the Daily Mail? United go on panic spree. They spent silly money on marquee names they don't really need, okay?
Well, Falcao as well has spent an awful lot of time on the injury list as well, hasn't he? Well, this is a guy who's got sort of played with injuries over the years.
He's had a remarkable career of not achieving very much. I just don't understand it. And now he's getting paid £280,000 a week. A week.
It's amazing, isn't it?
A week, 280 grand. I just don't get it. I just do not get it. I don't know about you, but I mean, he was injured, wasn't he, for a World Cup, which he never played in. It's absolutely astonishing.
How about this from Mark in Aberystwyth, who says he's a very disgruntled Real Madrid supporter. He's texted into 1889. He says, Man United, Falcao and Di Maria, lipstick on a pig. I can't say I like Jose Mourinho, but the Everton match showed exactly why he's bought the players he has. And I think that's a very good point. Diego Costa is clearly a brilliant player. He came into the Premier League, and started literally, running with both feet, and he's scoring goals. And lots of other players who take time to get into the Premier League, are not ones that Jose Mourinho buys. Fabregas the same.
I totally agree with you, and I can build on that point you've just made.
Can you? Good.
Which I heard perfectly.
I'm very glad. Well, you see, because I've pointed out to you, now you're paying a bit more attention. No. I'm very happy with that.
Now, the point I'm going to make is that Jose Mourinho started his rebuilding plans around about last February or March.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt. He knew what he wanted when he saw the second half of the season unfolding, realised short of a striker, short of a good midfield player and all this kind of stuff, right? So he then buys Cesc Fabregas and Diego Costa, both of whom have been excellent so far. Now, what I'm saying is, Mike, the point I'm making here
What is the point you're making?
Hang on, what's that noise? Oh, it's
That's
tea.
tea
Right, okay, it's tea landing on the desk. That's great. The point I'm making here is this. Jose Mourinho led from the front and went and got the players he required to shape the team in his image. Now, because Van Gaal was at the World Cup looking after Holland, he started late, so he didn't. I mean, he couldn't be thinking about it last February or March because he wasn't the Manchester United manager. But the minute he was the United manager, he had to start thinking. But he was away at the World Cup. That means.
But he did have the benefit of having Robin van Persie with him, who could tell him all that stuff.
Of course, but that doesn't make up for the huge amount of lost time. The point I'm making is that by the time he got back and tried to decide on what players he needed, he had to actually accept the players that were available, not the players he wanted. Because the players he wanted may have been Diego Costa, they may have been Fabregas, but he'd lost the race for them because Mourinho had been out of the starting blocks much, much quicker. You see what I mean?
But what was Edward Woodward doing then when all of this was going on? Why wasn't he signing these players?
Well, Woodward wasn't getting any direction, was he, from anybody until Van Gaal got back to England, basically, was he?
It is a shambolic situation at Manchester United still, isn't it?
It is shambolic. Now, and so from that, what we get, some of Fleet Street's finest now are saying that, this is now panic stations, United go on panic spree, buying players they don't need, how they're going to fit them all in the team. Ed Woodward, executive vice chairman, who's overseeing the frantic dash to reinvigorate a moribund group, negotiated for several months to secure Januzaj's new contract. Januzaj's new contract. Why bother if the plan all along was to front-load the team?
Yeah.
So,
that's the other thing. I mean, I heard it on the Sports Bar, one of the Manchester United bloggers writing or talking to them about how there's no way that Juan Mata gets in this team now. No. Apparently Juan Mata is a waste of space now.
Apparently Juan Mata could be on his way at the next transfer window. Because he's no. But Januzaj looked hopeless the other night against
MK Dons.
MK Dons. The boy...
Well, he's gone backwards. When he first started at Man United, he looked like the new thing. He looked like the brand new best player in the country. We wanted him to play for England. We wanted him to make sure that he signed himself up.
Under David Moyes, he scored that sensational left-footed volley, didn't he? From 25 yards out or something like that. All of a sudden, football world, falling at his feet. We're not worthy of you. We're not worthy of you. We're not worthy of you. Play for England. All that kind of stuff.
Look into the light for a minute.
All right. Anyway, and you're quite right. When I saw him play against MK Dons, I thought this is a shattered boy who looks not like he knows the direction in which his life should go.
No, indeed. Are you going to start talking scriptures or something like that? Yes. Mike Porky Parry is here. I'm Mike Graham. We are the two Mikes. Loads more coming next. This is Talk Sport Extra Time. We are the two Mikes, Mike Parry and Mike Graham. Manchester United very much the focal point of an awful lot of what's been going on in the last few hours, Mike. But we shouldn't forget, even though Steve Nicol was talking about it an awful lot as well, and saying that, a football team is not just about a load of names who get brought in, very much what you're saying, who are supposed to then suddenly know how to play together. There's been some other highlights of this particular last few hours, including Danny Welbeck leaving Manchester United and going to Arsenal. I don't know whether you share my view that I think he's actually going to be very good there.
I think he will be, but isn't it a bit odd that Arsenal buy a man who's perceived to be a Manchester United reject?
It is a bit odd, yeah. And I think some Arsenal fans are unhappy with that because they're saying, we should have got somebody better than this. If he doesn't work there, why will he suddenly work for us?
When Van Persie went the other way, he wasn't regarded as an Arsenal reject.
Not at all, no.
He was regarded as a man improving his footballing career by going to a bigger club and a more glamorous club. We all know that. So I can't quite get that one. Except that Arsene Wenger might have seen something in him, and his desire and his will to play. And let's face it, from what we've just said about the number of foreign players going in at Manchester United, it looks like there is no room for people like Welbeck.
No.
You know, the class
and
of
you've
92
got to be concerned
reborn.
about that. And you've got to be concerned about that if you're wearing your England hat, because, of course, it's international break now, because we've got the England game coming up against Norway on Wednesday night, live right here on TalkSport. You know, you've got to be thinking, well, if Danny Welbeck is going to become a better England player, then surely he should be playing in the Champions League and he should be playing for a top 4 club.
No, you're absolutely right. And the England situation, by the way, is extremely depressing. And we've got the game this week, right? And if there's 40,000 at Wembley...
Well, I think you told me on last week you're not going to go on the Norway game.
No, I'm not going, no.
But is that just because you can't fit it into your busy schedule, or is it because you don't really fancy watching another dire Roy Hodgson performance?
Do you know, it's not even that. What it is there will be such an atmosphere of misery at Wembley. I've been to Wembley games before when the stadium's been half full. Yeah. This is going to be a lot less than half full, OK? And those great swathes of terrace in that giant stadium, which are empty, depress me. The noise is a
It's like an echo chamber, isn't it?
It is like an echo chamber. It's like a humming rather than a roaring of a crowd. You know, it's an echo chamber. You can hear people talking on the other side of the stadium, believe it or not. And it infects everybody, including the players. Yeah. Nobody's got any appetite for it. And it's a friendly. Yeah. And so there's nothing to play for, really. And I think it's the worst possible preparation for what's an important game against Switzerland the following week, when we've got to be absolutely on our edge and doing it. You know what I mean? And getting in there. There's going to be some names, Mike, on that England team sheet, which I'm going to have to think about hard to put a face to a name. Yeah. That's how new the New England setup is. And that's how devoid we are of established players. And I think we're going to run into trouble. Yeah. I think we're going to run into trouble.
I'm bored with it already, to be honest, and I'll be looking forward to the end of the international break and the start of the Premier League again. But let's talk about Hull City, because they've done incredibly well.
They've done incredibly well, haven't they? I think they've spent nearly 40 million quid. And who have they signed yesterday? They signed... they
got Hassan Ben Arfa at the end of the day.
Ben Arfa, absolutely right. They had Hernandez and Momo Diarmi, didn't they, to start off with?
Gaston Ramirez has come as well.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
From Southampton.
And the midfield player from West Ham.
What, Diami?
Diami, that's the boy. That's the boy. Absolutely right. Yeah, excellent. And so it's all looking pretty good for them, and it's all very ambitious.
And they've also brought a guy called Abel Hernandez in from Palermo.
I just told you about him
on a 3-year deal.
I just told you about him.
You must have mispronounced it because I didn't sound like Abel Palermo.
Uruguayan striker, Mike. And when the Uruguayans are South Americans have names which are usually spelt in Spanish. And if you're not a master of the Spanish language, you can't understand the way I pronounce them, because basically...
Don't tell me you're a master of the Spanish language.
I'm not a master of Spanish language, but I'm a master of dialects, you know that, and that's the way it works out. So,
there might be a quiz on that.
Basically, Chelsea, who we haven't even talked about in the transfer market for the last 2 weeks,
because they did all their business at the beginning.
Exactly, have had the best transfer market. Manchester United look well. Is it unfair to say they look panic-stricken? And by the way, I said to you, well, it'll never happen for Manchester United because they haven't got any money. Right. And if they haven't got any money, they can't possibly go around buying players, OK? And, of course, I'm proved absolutely right, because I've looked at the way they financed all this, and it's all on, again, leveraged money and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's going to come back and perhaps give them a bit of a shock if these players don't work out. Because if the players don't work out, it means their value, as in Marian Fellaini, plummets.
He's still there, presumably.
Well, he hasn't gone anywhere,
has he?
He hasn't gone anywhere,
that's the other thing. I mean, they've offloaded a few players, but they've got an awful lot of players still that they didn't manage to get rid of, which presumably means they're going to try and get rid of them and offload them in January. Yeah,
absolutely. Manchester United have had to sell a few players. You would have thought that Fellaini might have gone as well to try and raise a few.
I don't think anyone wants to buy him.
Well, you could well be right. Do you think he might go abroad again?
Well, he might do.
I mean, when I say go abroad again, I mean he comes from Belgium, didn't he? And that's where Everton got him from before he went to Manchester United. But I see. What do I see?
What do you see?
Well, I'm trying to put it into perspective. It's too easy to jump on a Manchester United bandwagon and say they're going to crash and burn because they've had a panic £200 million spending spree and it won't knit together. But it won't knit together. And I think it will be an extremely difficult season for them, because the season now gets more difficult to justify rather than less. Yeah. Because they've gone and spent £200 million, and this is supposed to bring in all these genii, which is what they're supposed to be.
They haven't had a hard start to the season, have they? They're in 14th place in the league. They've played Swansea, to whom they lost at home. They played Burnley away, where they got a 0-0 draw. They drew with Sunderland, which some might say was a bit fortunate, and they got knocked out of the Capital One Cup by the MK Dons.
Yeah, unbelievable.
It's not exactly. I mean, I've got a text here from somebody who says that He says, Mike, you keep repeating Louis van Gaal hasn't managed in the Premier League, but neither had Mourinho before he came to Chelsea and won the title in his first season. It's totally irrelevant what you're saying. Explain the difference. Judge the man in May. He doesn't put his name on it. I don't blame him for not putting his name on it.
No, I don't
But
either.
it's a completely different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Of course it is. Mourinho came to Chelsea as the manager holding the European Cup.
Yeah.
So, actually, that's a better qualification than working in the Premier League.
Yeah. Well, people will say that
because
Van Gaal...
you beat all the Premier League teams along the way to win that
And
cup.
people will say that Van Gaal has done that in the Champions League, but a very long time ago.
A very long time ago. Under very different circumstances when money wasn't the big and all and end all of football. In those days, you still had a chance of getting somewhere, even if you were a moderately sized club.
Yeah.
As illustrated by the fact that Porto won, not a huge club, won the Champions League.
Yeah.
Borussia Dortmund didn't they?
I don't know.
Yes, they did along the way somewhere. And even Ajax, for whom, Gaal managed, I mean, they're a small club in European terms. They couldn't possibly win anything these days because they haven't got any money to buy any of Europe's great players.
Well, no. Every time they get any decent players, they get sold off.
Of course they do. Absolutely right. They are a puppy farm for Europe's top teams. Absolutely right. In all sorts of different countries.
Talking of puppy farms, I spent most of the afternoon in the vets this afternoon.
How did it go?
Well, luckily it wasn't broken. Well, the dog was playing with the kids at the weekend, and they were playing football, and he somehow injured his foot. Funnily enough, I thought it was going to be some kind of football injury.
Yeah.
Because the dog was running around and just getting involved in kicking the ball about, and he just started limping, and his front left foot looked as if it was lame. And took him to the vets, and we've got insurance and all that. But, you're thinking, they said, well, we're going to have to X-ray him, which involves having to put him under anaesthetic.
And a huge amount of cost.
But not only that, the worst thing is they make you sign a bit of paper which says that obviously there is a risk involved in giving your dog an anaesthetic and it might die. Which is not really a very nice thing to have to explain.
So you have to sign this bit of paper.
So I have to sign a bit of paper.
Just imagine if you signed that and then 20 minutes later, I'm sorry, he didn't make the anaesthetic.
Well, that's the thing.
You have to explain that to your boys.
Well, that's the thing.
The dog's dead.
They were all there,
Dog killer. For the rest of your life, your kids would look at Daddy killed our dog.
Well, no, it wouldn't have been me, would it?
Yeah, no, they
the
would.
Point is while I was
you were in
home,
charge of the dog when you took it into the vets, and you're the guys carrying it out, when you've got to take it and bury it in the back garden.
You have no compassion, do you?
Well, I'm only trying to...
This is you, a man who said that he'd quite like to borrow my dog or somebody's dog.
Yeah, I'm only explaining to you the way things would happen. You've got to make decisions in life, and if one of them is to inject your dog with a lethal anaesthetic...
It wasn't a lethal anaesthetic. What I'm saying to you is...
Potentially lethal.
Yeah, so the point is I had a couple of very worrying hours. Not that you cared. I had a couple of very worrying hours at home. Wondering if I was going to get a phone call from the vet saying, sorry, he hasn't made it.
What, you left the dog while the dog was there having its potentially fatal injection?
Yeah, they ask you to leave, yeah.
Why? Why can't you sit in the waiting room?
Because the waiting room is full of dogs and cats and people and everything else.
So where'd you go?
I went home.
How far away is that?
About half a mile, not very far.
Oh, OK, no, fine. And your boys must have been very upset. What's the name of the dog?
I can't tell you the name of the dog.
Why?
It's a secret.
Don't be ridiculous.
I'm not telling you the name of the dog.
Don't be silly.
In case somebody calls it and it goes, and then suddenly it's not ours anymore.
All right, well, I'll call it Rover then.
Rover, yeah.
So you're sitting there this afternoon and you're saying to your boys, and the boys say, "Oh, Daddy, where's Rover?" And you say, "I'll go and get him." And you get into your new Jeep and you go along there and you come back and the boy's looking the back window of the Jeep.
It doesn't bear thinking about, does it?
It doesn't. The dog is prostrate in the back, no sign of life, and you say, "Don't worry, Rover's just sleeping." I'd be
bringing him back, would
Rover's just sleeping, and then...
We need to break, by the way.
Yeah, in a minute. And then,
what do you mean in a minute? Look at the time.
I know. You open the door and the little boy suddenly realise Rover's dead, and all of a sudden you're the dog killer.
And you want to make something funny about it?
No, I'm not making anything funny about it. I'm saying this is the way it could have worked out.
Just stop it.
No,
Look
you didn't realise the responsibility of having
Look into the light. This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport Extra Time. We are the two mics. We've heard Mr. Parry's view on Manchester United and, of course, on Arsenal as well. And I must remind you, actually, you were the guy who said that Manchester United didn't have any money.
Well,
they won't be able to buy any players.
No, they haven't got any money.
Ever since you said that, they've done nothing but spend about 150 million quid.
Well, I tell you something. A lot of people who are very influential around Manchester United heard my protestations about the fact they haven't got any money, and I think I actually helped to...
You think you were the catalyst?
Well, I think I could have helped to unlock the purse strings and, and make the Glazers believe that some of the wealth that they've gleaned from ownership of Manchester United, they had to suddenly put back into the club. The situation is that they are loaded with so much debt, £70 million a year in interest repayments.
Yeah.
That money
Not interest-free payments, interest payments.
What did I say?
You said interest-free payments.
No, sorry, man.
You've been reading too many of those adverts on the television.
Probably. Interest payments on the debt that they loaded onto the club, that's not available. Now, over the 8 or 9 years they've been there, that's like £750 million, which they could have used. And I think they've decided now they've got to do it. But the other issue here, Mike, is this, that it's all very well now, which has happened what happened over the weekend was people saying, well, Sir Alex Ferguson now's got to take some responsibility for
I've been saying this for ages.
The way he left the club. Well, yes, but that's ridiculous because, look, let me equate it with you to a Tesco sandwich, OK? Yeah. A Tesco sandwich is obviously produced by Tesco's, OK?
Possibly so. Maybe they buy it in from somewhere else.
Well, they probably do. Some firm makes it for them. Yeah. But now, point is that for a long time, Tesco's was run by Sir Terence Lee.
Yes, very well.
Who was Britain's top retailer. Yeah. This is the point I'm making. He happens to be an Everton fan, but that's irrelevant. But that's actually how I got to know him, if you see what I mean, because I met him a couple of times at Everton. Now, at the peak of their success, £1.07 in the high street was spent in Tesco's.
That's right, yeah.
And Sir Terence Lee, he expanded it overseas and all that kind of stuff. The minute he steps down, Tesco goes into decline, and they suddenly decided their overseas investments were poor, and all this was poor, and that was poor, and they've suddenly decided now, they said, well, Sir Terence Lee left it in terrible state, and they're saying Sir Alex Ferguson left it in terrible state. No, it's the power of one individual to run an organisation with his personality, his skill, his drive, tenacity, extreme knowledge of the business they're working in. And when that one man goes and you haven't made preparations to replace him...
Well, yeah, but whose responsibility is it to replace him and to prepare for his departure then?
The board, because...
Well, then why did they let the guy, David Gill, walk away at the same time?
Well, that was wrong. That's the board's fault. Yeah. I mean, who's the chairman of Manchester United who let David Gill go?
So, inevitably, it's the Glazers' fault then, isn't it?
Absolutely. Totally and absolutely, because they do really run the place from afar, don't they? They spend most of their time in America and all that.
But surely...
Took the eyes off the ball. In the same way as Tesco, if the chairman was, should never have allowed Sir Terence Lee to just go bang, because since then... I'm not an expert on this, but he's gone and taken up a position with another budget chain of supermarkets who are absolutely booming. And I think I read they're about to go to market. They're about to be turned into a public company, and he's made a great success of that.
And that's his particular genius, yeah.
Well, exactly.
And Tesco's, as you say, gone terribly downhill ever since then. Yeah. But, surely for Sir Alex Ferguson, he should have at least had... Because it's not as if he's walked away and joined another organisation. He's still there.
I totally agree.
He's got the stand named after him. Yeah. He was sitting there in the gate at the Burnley game at the weekend, with that same grim-looking expression on his face, wondering what on earth has gone wrong.
He was yawning. But, yawning as well.
He's not like you and I sitting there wondering what on earth is going on. He was part of what was going on, so how can he just walk away from it and leave it in such a bad state?
Because, people were saying to him, at your age, 72, 73, was it? Something like that. Perhaps now it's time, to hand the baton on to somebody else. And
he wanted to go out with a bang, so once they won the league, that was good enough.
Exactly. I mean, put it this way. Supposing he'd lost that league and they'd finished 7th that season, if he walked away then, people would have said, you're a quitter. Yeah. You've walked away and left us in a terrible state.
He wouldn't have done it. He would have stayed on.
Yeah, but he handed over a team that were 11 points clear at the top of the Premiership.
I don't buy what people say that was a poor 11 points season clear. And everybody else was rubbish.
11 points clear at the top of the...
That was all down to Van Persie's goals.
All down to Van Persie's goals. Somebody should have come in and harnessed that success and built on. But you see, the other thing, Mark, and you may not understand this, because to give you, to be fair to you, you were away in America for a lot of your earlier life, OK?
Yeah.
But whenever Liverpool, in their most successful decade, the 70s and the 80s and a bit of the early 90s, found a player getting up to that sort of age, replaced him, what they didn't do is they didn't wait till the whole team started creaking, then replace it wholesale.
Right.
The minute they started doing that, which they did in the sort of mid-90s, the whole thing went to pieces. And Gerard Houllier ended up, having to rebuild a team. Right. And Mr. Evans,
Roy Evans.
Roy Evans, my friend Roy Evans.
Your friend whose name you forgot.
Exactly, yeah. No, but that
comes as no surprise.
That was just a mental aberration. And so what I'm saying is, what Shankly and Bob Paisley used to do is they used to see a great young player and think he'd be great for Liverpool maybe in 12 months, 2 years. They'd buy him, put him in the reserves. Alan Evans, I remember they bought as a teenager from Wolverhampton. Kevin Keegan they bought almost as a teenager from Scunthorpe. Yeah.
And Steve Highway they brought in from Skelmersdale, I think.
Skelmersdale, absolutely right. And
Ryan Hall.
On the other wing.
Alec Lindsay. I used to know that team. I used to go watch that team a lot.
Chris
Lawler.
Yeah, Chris Lawler. Even Jockey, when he got there, Alan Hansen, was only like a minor player in the Scottish leagues, but they spotted him and they brought him down, that kind of stuff. So what I'm saying is it's foresight, and United haven't shown any foresight in this particular position, except for the point that you've raised, and that is that they had a squad of young players coming through who now appear to have been completely discarded. Completely discarded. And that's because a completely new... What's the word I'm looking for?
I've no idea.
Culture. Completely new culture.
Yeah, philosophy, I think you'll find is what Lou Van Gaal calls it.
Philosophy and culture has arrived at... Yeah, he does. He keeps going on about his philosophy.
Yeah.
Well, his philosophy
Nobody knows what it is.
Well, they do now. His philosophy is to go out and buy £200 million worth of players, put them all together and say you will work together. Many of them don't even speak the same language. Well, and I think it's going to be extremely difficult. Luke Shaw, 27 million quid, young man, teenager from Southampton.
He's not fit, doesn't he?
Yeah. Is supposed now to mix it with guys like Falco, a Christian from Uruguay. Yeah.
When you say Christian, as though everybody else is some kind of devil worshipper.
No. What I'm saying is this boy, he doesn't do parties, he doesn't do wild stuff, doesn't do tattoos. This is a footballer without tattoos. Now, that impresses me greatly.
Well, you know what?
I bet he doesn't wear studded earrings in his earlobes.
This was one of the things I forgot to mention to you from my trip to Turkey.
Oh, yeah?
Was that I hardly saw anybody with any tattoos. And one day, I suddenly saw this person standing in a bar with a tattoo.
But he's English.
That's unusual. And she was English.
Oh, she, right, yeah, okay, yeah. By the way, you said you had a bad day with your dog. I had a pretty strange day.
Did you?
Yeah, I went into the bank today to do something. And
what did you go to the bank for?
Well, I went to the bank because I had some checks and things
Nobody
to sort out.
goes into the bank anymore, do they?
Of course.
Was anybody else in there?
Yeah, of course there were. Loads of people in there. It was very busy.
Well, it wasn't semi-deserted.
Why would it be deserted?
Oh, nobody goes to banks anymore. Everybody does their banking online.
No,
it's all about electronic money now.
No, it's not.
Who writes cheques? You get people giving you cheques.
Well, hang on. If I get a dividend payout from, a share investment or something like that, and they send me a cheque, what do you expect me to do with it?
Do they?
Yeah, what do you expect me to do?
Why don't they just pay you electronically? Tell them to get. Well,
I don't give people details of my bank account over the.
I'm amazed anybody's got a chequebook anymore
over the internet.
I can't remember the last time I saw a cheque.
Oh yeah, I still use cheques for certain things.
You write cheques?
I write cheques. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I do write cheques. Yeah, and people send me cheques.
Old-fashioned.
If I have a lucky month with the bookmakers, right? It's Corals, but
they don't pay you by cheque.
They do. They send me a cheque.
Really?
I ask for it specially, and they do. Honestly, send me a cheque. And similarly, if I end up owing them money, I send them a cheque. They're very happy with it. They say it's the cleanest and easiest
That's
way.
Ludicrous.
Well, anyway, look. The point is, I go in the bank, and there's a.
You've only just started the story, and now we have to stop again.
Yeah, all right, in a minute.
You can't say in a minute. The producer's telling us to stop.
This is very quickly. Geeky kid behind the glass, as I push the stuff under the glass and all that, he says, "Are you having a nice day?"
What's wrong with that?
Well, I'm not answering a question like that.
So what did you say?
I didn't say anything. I just looked at him. Thought, you're invading my mental personal space, and I'm not.
There isn't any personal space in your mental area.
There is.
There's a lot of other space, unoccupied space.
No, I know what he was going to do. He's going to, try and butter me up, and try and sell me
something.
He's
trying to be nice to you.
No, I don't agree. I found that offensive, and I just glared at him.
Will you be complaining about it? You should write a letter of complaint. That'd be brilliant.
No, I'm not.
We'll hear some more about this story in a moment. He's Mike Parry. I'm Mike Graham. We are the two Mikes on TalkSport.
Listen now. You got a lot to learn.
This is TalkSport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. He is Mike Parry. And did you know, Mr. Parry, that yesterday, Monday, was the final day for you to be able to buy one of those high-powered vacuum cleaners that people like to have?
Unbelievable.
Which I was very, very much... I sent it out on social media a little bit earlier on in the day.
That.
Because I'm thinking to myself...
A good protest.
How stupid is this idea, right, that you're not allowed to use a powerful vacuum cleaner?
Utterly ridiculous.
Or Hoover. Somebody picked me up on that as well, of course, on Twitter, and said, oh, by the way, it's not a Hoover, it's a vacuum cleaner. Hoover is a make. I'm well aware of that, but I've always called them Hoovers.
Yeah, I call them a Hoover.
And many people do. And in fact, the Daily Mail's got a promotion with Hoover, and they're calling them Hoovers as well.
Right.
But, I mean, they're now... What I don't get is, it says beat the EU ban and Hoover up 50% off high-powered Hoovers, especially for male readers. Basically, they're telling these companies they can't manufacture Hoovers that are high-powered anymore.
What is the purpose behind this ban?
The purpose behind it is that they say these very high-powered Hoovers use too much power, and therefore we are going to kill off the planet unless we start to use less high-powered Hoovers.
Oh, absolutely.
But of course, what everybody then said to me on Twitter and all the other people who are annoyed as well as we are, said, well, we're just going to use the Hoover for longer. I know this doesn't affect you because you have Mrs. Mop doing all your hoovering.
No, it does. No,
you actually use a Hoover, do you?
Oh, I'll tell you, my place down on the coast, right, I don't have a regular cleaning lady, excuse me.
Really?
Well, I never know when I'm going to be there and when I'm not, so it doesn't matter. What I do is, there's a local company, and if I know that I'm going down, for instance, in a couple of days' time, I ring them up, and they go round and they give it the once-over.
Well, I mean, considering you're hardly there, it can't be that dirty anyway, can
No, well, you wouldn't... dust does settle, believe it or not, in empty apartments.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because most dust...
down by the sea where you are, there's not a lot of dust anyway, is there? Well, the sea doesn't bring much dust with it.
Well, it brings an awful lot of salt on the windows. And the one thing I like them to do is clean the outside windows. Because...
so you got them hanging off the outside of the building?
No, on the balcony. The windows which are flush to the wall, i.e. without a balcony, are cleaned by a guy we have with a cherry picker machine who goes up and down, sponging the windows and all that kind of stuff. But let's get back to the Hoover. Now, sometimes, for instance, you'll have people round, right? And these people come round and they take their shoes off, because I make everybody in my place take their shoes off.
Right.
And
you don't have guests very often anyway.
Well,
I mean, if you're objecting to the way the guy in the bank asks you if you're having a nice day, I can't imagine that you're very, hospitable to people around at your place.
No, I object to the bloke in the bank saying to me, are you having a nice day? Because that's an intrusive question. I mean, for all he knows, a relative might have died earlier in the day. So it's a really daft question to ask somebody.
Well, he's just trying to be polite. I'll tell you why he's doing it, because the banks have got such a bad reputation at the moment. They're desperately trying. You've seen all these ads that they've got at the moment, making out that we are the personal bank. We don't care about money. We just care about you.
That's right.
And it's like, if you fall for that, then you deserve to lose all your money. Do you know
exactly.
what I mean?
Oh, and at the same time, by the way, they're instead of queuing up and getting a face behind a screen, they encourage you to put everything into an envelope and stick the envelope in a chute at the end of the queue. No,
but I'm sure, to be honest, to be fair to the guy, he was probably just trying to be nice to you.
I found it intimidating to be asked, are you having a nice day?
If you wrote a letter of complaint to the head of whichever bank you're with and said, I was outraged at the way that he asked me if I was having a nice day, there's not much to complain about, is it?
I was more outraged by the fact that when I refused to answer, he sort of smiled glibly at me and wondered if I had a problem. Well, I've got a problem. He's got a problem for being garrulous. I don't like garrulousness of the mouth.
Garrulousness?
Because it gets on my nerves. Anyway, getting back to the Hoovers, right, so... If you have people round, what happens is I put out all these bowls full of crisps and peanuts and all that kind of stuff. That's another thing about having a second place, Mike. When I got them all out to start off with, the last time people came round, I thought, a few peanuts and crisps and all that. And then I looked at the sell-by dates, and they were all about 4 months out of date.
Oh.
Well, that was, that must have been since the last time I had anybody around.
So about 10 years ago. Most things have sell-by dates that go off into years into the future.
No. So anyway, I got rid of those, and I go and get some more of those things.
It sounds like Mr. Bean's New Year party.
What's that long tube thing with all those crisps in? What are they called?
Pringles.
That's it. Yeah, I got a load of those and stuff and all that kind of stuff. So you put all these in the bowls and you put them on my glass tables and all that kind of stuff, right? And the people come round and give them a few drinks, a bit of sherry and all that kind of stuff, and munching on it. And then when they go, of course, inevitably somebody's ground a crisp into the carpet or something, you know what I mean? Which
it happens.
I really object to, it really gets on
done it deliberately,
my nerve. No, they should be more careful in other people's homes. So I get the Hoover out of the cupboard.
Right.
And plug it in.
Fire it up.
Yeah, plug it in, switch it on. And I'm not joking, it has got an engine like a jet. You switch it on and it sort of... No, honestly, it sort of goes...
People think you're having a seizure.
No, and it starts...
Well, these are the ones that have been banned now.
Well, exactly. It starts shaking, right?
It's according to this offer there, the high-performance 2,200 watt and 300 AW, I don't know what that is.
And this has got a...
suction power.
It's got a big, see-through chamber in the middle.
Right.
So I don't think it's a Dyson, because that's a very famous one, but it's something like that, know. But
so a bagless one?
It's a bagless one, yeah. But, by the way, it's never been emptied, as far as I know.
Well, is there anything in it?
Well, no, I don't think there is. But I'll tell you why that is in a minute.
You've got the amazing disappearing magic vacuum cleaner.
No. What it is, you see, and it shakes like mad and all this. And even when I sort of get it on the carpet, it sort of runs away with me and knocks into tables and things.
Does it not do that thing where it sticks to the carpet and you can't move it?
No, this is the point.
So high.
No, this is exactly the point I was going to make. So for years, I've been cleaning the carpets with this thing. Well, not me personally, but, the cleaners and that kind of stuff. And I always kind of wondered why there was no fluff in it or something like that. Because the carpets were new when I first moved in. I let you get rid of fluff and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, when I eventually...
Did you have the wrong switch on or something?
I had the wrong setting for the brushes underneath them. So for years I was doing this on a setting which was for wooden floors only.
So it wasn't sucking anything up?
It wasn't sucking anything up at all. And so I was...
You idiot.
I was running up and down on the carpet.
That's completely idiotic.
Well, I didn't know, did I? And I'm thinking, I don't think there's too much suction in this.
Well,
it's making this huge noise, which sounded like it was sucking, but it wasn't sucking anything.
But surely if you were trying to pick up the crisps or whatever it was on the ground, you would have noticed that they weren't moving.
Well, if I ran it over it about 60 times, eventually the crisps would come up, you know what I mean? And that's because it was to the setting of wooden floor.
Yeah.
And on a wooden floor thing, it's a different... I don't know what it is, you know, but
people who say that the EU, because they never stop at this kind of thing. I mean, the next thing that they're going to go after is lawnmowers, apparently. High-powered electric lawnmowers and hairdryers. Yeah. I don't suppose you probably use the hairdryer, do you?
No, I don't.
No, I don't either.
No, I don't. No, you're absolutely right. You see, I think it's so ridiculous, because I read a report in one of the Sunday papers, I can't remember which one, because I read every Sunday paper every Sunday, which said that there is twice as much... Where do you
find the time?
There is twice
you're the guy that said to me that you could never... Hang on. Yeah. You're the guy that said to me you could never be bothered to go on holiday because you wouldn't know what to do. Yeah. I mean, you have so much time on your hands. I mean, I literally spent all weekend just running from pillar to post doing different things.
Yeah, so did I.
I don't have time to read the papers.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, mate, but I have a busy life as well. But a lot of it is sort of in the background or undercover or all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Undercover of the Night. That was a great Stones record, wasn't it? When we were in America,
like that one,
you know.
I thought it was crap.
Undercover of the night.
It wasn't one of their greatest songs.
I thought it was great. I thought Keith Richards looked really evil in it. So getting back to... Is it the Hoover?
The Hoover.
Oh, no, the Hoover. So I read in one of the Sunday papers that there is twice as much ice now at the North Pole than there was 7 years ago when Al Gore put out his film. What was it called again?
An
Inconvenient Truth.
Inconvenient
An
Truth.
Inconvenient Truth, in which he said, in as little as 7 years, all the ice at the North Pole cap will have disappeared.
Well, there was a judge in Sussex.
In fact, there's twice as much.
Well, there was a judge in Sussex or Kent, if you remember, because in Kent, I think it was, they wanted to show that film to all the schools in the county.
Right.
And one of the parents objected and said, "This is actually propaganda. I don't think it should be shown to my kids." And the judge upheld it and said, "Actually, it shouldn't be called an inconvenient truth. It should be called an inconvenient pack of lies, because actually there's 9." Not just falsehoods in it, but deliberate falsehoods, which are designed to alarm people
and play to the lobby who demand on higher taxes and higher taxes and higher taxes.
And no Hoovers that don't work.
Yeah, allegedly to save the world. But the world is being saved okay without these people. We don't need wind farms because they kill birds. But for some unknown reason, somebody keeps building them, and they don't.
Well, lots of things kill birds.
Yeah, but they don't produce any electricity, do they?
Well, they produce minimal electricity.
Minimal electricity, that's the word. Minimal electricity.
You've seen that building down by Elephant and Castle that's got the 3 wind...
lipstick.
Not the lipstick.
It looks like a lipstick.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's got the 3. It's got the 3 little wind turbines.
That's right.
Do you know how much electricity that generates?
Go on, tell me.
About a third of what it needs to run the building.
Well, that's quite a lot. I thought you were going to say enough to make a cup of tea, and that's it.
Oh no, it runs. They generate enough to actually, give electricity to the building for about a third of it.
Oh, really?
But that's only a third of it. They still have to get electricity from elsewhere.
Well, of course you do. But you've got to remember that when it blows too strong, they have to close the turbines down in case they damage themselves.
It could be dangerous.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, isn't that ludicrous? Also, people's views have been ruined in beautiful rural areas, somewhere in Wales and in the south west of England and Cornwall.
Well, there's lots of them being put in the sea now as well.
Lots of them put in the sea. Well, I do. Who wants them in the sea?
You don't go anywhere near the sea.
Of course I go near the sea. Of course I go near the sea.
When do you go near the sea?
I live on the sea.
Yeah, you live on it, but you don't go out on it, though, do you? When was the last time you were on a boat?
Last time I was on a boat was on Saturday.
What sort of boat was it?
It was the Gosport Ferry.
What's on a boat?
Well, of course it's a ferry. Goes from Gosport to Portsmouth across Portsmouth Harbour.
You haven't been on a boat for sort of purposes of pleasure or for the purposes of work or anything like that?
I went to the Isle of Wight quite recently.
On another ferry?
Well, it's called the Sea Cat. It's
a ferry?
No, it's not actually. It's a very sleek boat. It's a double-hulled, what do you call that, catamaran. And,
I've seen it. It's a ferry.
And shoot over to the Isle of Wight. Yeah. It's like a James Bond boat, to be honest.
It's like the ones that got them down the Thames.
No. Much sleeker and faster
than that. No, it's not, actually.
No, it is. By the way, HMS Illustrious was in port, and the day before, the day before I got there, it had been decommissioned. So that's it now. That's it. We haven't got an aircraft carrier. No. Mind you, it was a bit ridiculous to call it an aircraft carrier for the last 5 years anyway, because, of course, it didn't have any aeroplanes, did it? Which is a bit of
So it was just a very large boat.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah, just a large boat. And there's a picture yesterday of some sailors sunbathing on the runway where the planes should have taken off. And it's an absolute disgrace. I don't know what's going on. The Royal Navy is down to about, I don't know, I'm not trying to be inaccurate here, but I think it's down to about 30 ships, right? What can you do with 30 ships? You know how many we used to have? You know, I mean, just after the Second World War?
300, I should imagine.
Absolutely, 350, something like that, you know?
Unbelievable. John Le Gunner, let's finish up with some football texts here.
Let's do that.
81089, of course. John Le Gunner says, great show, boys. I really do think Wenger has lost the plot. Arsenal are a striker short of being a top team, and he brings in Welbeck. No disrespect to Danny, but I don't think he's what Arsenal needs to compete for titles and the Champions League. I'll tell you what was interesting as well yesterday was that Arsene Wenger was in the Vatican all day.
Was he in the Vatican?
Apparently, it was a charity football game, which I presume was taking place inside Vatican City.
Is he a?
Have you been to Vatican City?
I have been to Vatican City.
I haven't.
I've been to the Sistine Chapel.
Have you?
I've seen the what you call it now, the
ceiling.
Yeah, the ceiling. That's right.
I think that's what it's known as.
Michelangelo. Is that Michelangelo's ceiling? Yeah, I've seen that. Awe-inspiring. Absolutely.
Did you lie down on the floor to look at it?
No.
That's what they recommend.
Yeah, tell you what I saw today. I saw a picture of monks at Ampleforth. That's right. Picking apples, which they turn into like 250,000 gallons of cider.
Oh yeah.
But isn't Ampleforth a school?
It is.
It's
a private school.
It's Britain's leading Catholic private school, isn't it?
It is, down in the West Country, yeah.
Oh, it's in the West Country?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was in Yorkshire.
No, I think
it's definitely in the West Country, is it? Yeah, okay. And I thought, well, you know, that's almost medieval. It's almost medieval, isn't it? You know, to see monks picking apples in an orchard and converting it into cider.
It's like the other monks that make that rocket fuel that's drunk by the sort of the Neds, as they call themselves in Scotland.
You're only allowed a 1/3 bottle of that, aren't you? Because if you there are some monks who make some booze which is so strong they will only sell you a 1/3 bottle, i.e. they're made in you know, like milk used to be served at school. Sorry?
Buckfast.
What's a buckfast?
Buckfast, that's the stuff you're talking about.
Oh, where is this made?
It's made somewhere in the West Country by monks, but it's mostly drunk in Scotland.
Oh, is it? Well, do they export it to Scotland?
Yeah, well, they don't export it. It's part of the same country. But, I mean, you know.
No, you know what I mean. I mean, they ship it up to Scotland.
Yeah, they do, yeah. It's very popular up there.
And also, the other place is on Lindisfarne.
Yeah.
They've got one of them on Lindisfarne.
Have they?
Got a few monks and all that kind of stuff, make the special honey brew or something like that. And again, so lethal that you're not allowed to have more than, I think you can have about 2 drinks and that's about it.
Yeah, well, no surprise there. Mike Porky Parry will be back, of course, for the 5-hour 2 Mics special on Thursday night.
Which precedes
the live show that we're doing on Friday night.
The following night.
It's a very busy week for the 2 Mics. That was the 2 Mics podcast.
Yes, it certainly was. Don't forget, it's out every Tuesday and every Friday morning on iTunes.
And you can follow us at the 2 Mics.
So keep listening for more of MG's loose morals. Believe me, this boy hasn't got a moral fibre in his body.
And more of his bizarre buffoonery.
What?